Hey there, Mike Wolf here. Thanks for tuning in today. I just got an email earlier today from somebody named Amanda who asked me this question by email. And it said, I've been asking the local REI, real estate investment clubs, and no one seems to know the answer. So I'm reaching out to you to see if you can shed some light. I'm going to start flipping homes in the US. How will I be paying taxes on my profits? How does that work as a Canadian citizen? Well, I have to pay taxes in the US and in Canada. And to answer that question, first of all, I thought I'd make a video so that we can share this information because I know a lot of people have the same question. It's a very common one. The answer to that question is that how you pay taxes, whether you're going to pay taxes in the US and or Canada, is going to depend entirely on how you do the transaction. So if you do it in your personal name, then yes, you'll definitely be paying taxes in both countries. The good news is there is a tax treaty between Canada and the US. So what that means is if you did a deal where you would normally pay $20,000 tax in Canada and it was $15,000 tax in the US, you would pay the $15,000 to the IRS first. Then when you did your tax return in Canada, you'd pay the difference. So you'd show that you owe them $20,000, but you'd get a credit for the $15,000 you already paid, and you'd send the Canadian government $5,000. Now, depending on what type of structures you use, though, you might be strictly in the Canadian tax system or strictly in the US tax system. And the right way to structure yourself depends entirely on your situation. It's not one size fits all. So one of the things that really worries me is I go to a lot of seminars where the guru is trying to sell people on a high-priced coaching program. And quite often what they use as bait is they'll say, oh, well, if you sign up for my coaching program, I'm going to teach you, we're going to get you all set up. We're going to give you your very own structures and entities. And the biggest problem is they give everybody the exact same structure, and that's very dangerous. It's much like your accountant here in Canada. If you're going to a Canadian accountant and they don't want to know what you do for a living, they don't want to know what you have for assets and liabilities, and they're giving everybody the same structure, that's problematic because somebody who's who's got a ton of assets is going to have a very different structure than somebody who's just starting out with very little money, because you have a lot of liability things to look at, and you also have much more of a tax problem to deal with. The other thing is that these corporations, there's different types, and some of them aren't recognized by the Canadian government. So, for example, they have something called an LLC, Limited Liability Corporation, and those are not recognized by CRA. So, although they work great for Americans, they don't work great for Canadians. We get a lot of American gurus coming up to Canada and telling us that we need LLCs, and they're one of the worst structures, at least on their own. You can have them in conjunction with something else. Then you have things called C Corps. They work great for flipping, but they don't work so great for buying and holding. So there's a whole lot of different structures. There's a whole lot of different implications for what you're going to set up, and it's not one size fits all. So what I'd invite you to do, first of all, I'm not an accountant, but if you want to get some just preliminary information, I can give you that. I can talk about C Corps, LLCs, LPs, LLPs. There's a whole bunch of different choices. I'm not the guy who's going to give you the final say, though. So what I'm also going to do is I'm going to refer you to one of my cross-border accounting specialists, and I'm going to give you a little bit of preliminary information so that you can cut down your bill with them when you call them. I'm not going to charge you anything, and it'll cut down the amount of time you've got to deal with the specialist. But never go and run with what I tell you, because I'm not in the position. I can tell you what works for me, and I can tell you what I've seen work for some of my students. But to make a long story short, you're always going to confirm with a cross-border specialist, and if you ever go to a room where they're all trying to put everybody into the same sort of structure for investing in U.S. real estate, run, because those guys are giving you very bad information. So I hope this helps. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you have any questions, always email or call me. I'd be happy to answer them, and I look forward to talking to you soon.